Welcome to the newest episode of Rewind Heroes. It seems like it's been forever. I'm your co-host, Greg Compton.
And I'm your other co-host, Dan Gaines. This is where we try to get to you every week with movies and television and music news. And we're back and excited because we've got some really cool stuff to talk about today.
We are. It's been a little bit of a hiatus, so let's call it season 2. This will just be season 2.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll call that.
Which means we're back better than ever, right?
Exactly, and there was news to talk about, but I mean, honestly, things like Alden Ehrenreich's The New Han Solo. Yeah, we told you that about 3-4 weeks ago. So, we got that down, and some new Dark Tower photos, but you can check that out if you're geeking out on films and stuff. You've probably already seen those things since we shot.
And we were going to review the Rogue One trailer, but oh wait, that didn't happen.
Exactly, there isn't one. So, in lieu of that, there was something incredibly exciting, something we were looking forward to, and can't wait to talk to you about. So we're just going to do basically this whole episode about Stranger Things. You ready for it?
Let's do it.
Let's go to the 80s with the Rewind. Well, we have seen some Stranger Things. That's right, Netflix has released this past week the 8-part series called Stranger Things, set in 1983 in Hawkins, Indiana, which is fictional if you're not from Indiana. I want to get your initial reactions on it, but I just want to say I think this show perfectly encapsulates everything our show is about. We're very excited for it. I don't think it disappointed, but before I get into my take, let's see, what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and you're exactly right, because everything that we usually talk about in this show fits into this Stranger Things. I mean, it had everything. It had the nostalgia, it had the Spielberg, Stephen King feel to it, and overall, I couldn't stop watching it. And I'm probably one of the biggest culprits of I'll find a show I like, but I'm really slow to get through it. Not because I don't want to, but because of time. And this thing, I didn't care what was going on. I was getting through this show. It started last Friday. Got it done in 2 days. Could not stop. I want more. I thought it did a great job of captivating our audience and hopefully you guys as well. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, we can break this down in a couple different ways.
Yeah.
First of all, just the feel and the tone of this. We're talking early 80s.
Yep.
And it is truly that mix of E.T., Goonies, a little bit of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, mixed very much with every Stephen King horror that freaked you out as a child.
Not to mention, I'd even sprinkle in like a Stand By Me with the foul-mouthed kids.
And that's just an 80s tone that I've noticed with so many of those films. I mean, it's just wrapping all that up, and it's done perfectly, even down to the opening credits are minimalist, but it looks like something with film grain on the opening credits, if you ever noticed. It's not during the show.
I did notice.
The score of this is just very synthed out. Like, I would never listen to that score on its own, but it perfectly complements the show.
It truly teleports you back in time. I mean, when you start hearing that music, you instantly know what era the show's set in, I think.
I mean, it's so 80s it screams Winona Ryder, which is, let's get into the characters, right? So first of all, let's talk about, this was her comeback.
Should we let them know there are going to be spoilers? Just for those that
there are going to be spoilers, and
in?
I'm guessing if you watch one episode of this,
you couldn't stop.
Pause it. In 9 hours, you'll be back here.
Back.
Yeah. So, should we start off? Actually, let's not start with her. Let's start with the kids, because that's kind of the main focus.
They steal the show.
They steal the show. The main point is the one child, Will, is abducted, missing, gone.
Yep.
What were your take on these characters? Let's talk about Levin last, but just the core friends.
Yeah, overall, I love their banter. I mean, and for probably all the reasons we're talking about how we see the relations to the ETs and these other shows in the 80s, because you had that feeling. It was easy to relate to them. We all remember playing these games they're playing.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can't help but put yourself in their shoes. Like, what the hell would I do if this was the stuff I'm dealing with?
Yeah.
So to me, they were great. They weren't in it enough, in my opinion, because they were that good.
It was great. I mean, the kids are perfect. Toothless, I cannot remember his actual character's name. Between yelling, "You son of the bitches," and all the, I mean, it's perfect. It's that kids against the world, but we don't get that anymore today. I mean, they do it, but in a different way. Like, parents are slapstick stupid in a lot of things now, these Disney shows and stuff. This is different, and it's done so well. These kids are perfect.
It feels real, is why I think it works.
Yeah, and you have multiple sets. You've got you've got them, you've got the high school kids, which a lot of them are siblings, and I liked some of their storylines as well.
I did too.
But yeah, this thing sets it off with kids playing D&D, yelling, cursing each other at the beginning of that. Then it's dark out, gotta get on your bike and ride home, and it hits on so many levels. I mean, these kids would be about 4 years older than I was at that time because these were middle school. I was 4 in 1983, so it's not like it's really, it's a little beyond me, but enough that I kind of remember some of this stuff. So it was perfect. Those kids were great. Winona Ryder, you had your thoughts on her character.
Yeah, I wasn't as huge of a fan of her. I know that Greg has a different opinion.
Actually, no.
No,
I'm with you on that.
You're with me. All right. So to me, she was the weakest of the main cast. I mean, she was screaming and she was frantic, but I had a hard time buying it most of the time. It was like she's really trying to make us believe she's upset, and that's all I kept thinking in almost every scene she was in.
True. Of course, the only thing with her character is how she played. It served the character's purpose.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was I didn't like her character as much even.
That
maybe
might
that's
be.
it.
That might be. Now the sheriff started off. I know you were saying this. I felt too. Beginning.
Beginning, I'm like, this guy is wow. Can we overact anymore? Can this guy be any more pissed off and serious?
Yeah.
But then he evolved as the show went on, and it worked. He was probably one of the highlights.
With a totally different storyline that comes in, like a story of redemption to find this kid. And I thought that was perfect. I really, really like that character. When we talked about there were high school kids and these parents, and I think what was great is you have this story of finding this child, but it's told in 3 parallel layers. You have the middle school kids, his friends trying to do their own thing to find it. You've got the high school kids, which are wrapped in. There are other people that get abducted in this, though no one is really a focus like Will is. But you get their take on how they're going to find it. The brother that thinks he's responsible, and the sister feels guilty about things, and they're going to do their own thing to find it. And then you've got the parents. So it's like everyone's coming at it from a different age group and how you would. I thought that was great. It all kind of combines and comes together near the end. I thought that was a really cool way because you're getting 3 different takes on the story in one show.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And honestly, I didn't even think about that until you brought it up, but it is a pretty cool perspective the way they kind of did that.
Oh, and it's amazing. Now, there's another character we haven't talked about yet, and that is Eleven, who is the girl who I couldn't even tell when I first saw that she was a girl.
But apparently everyone on the show could because they all referred to her as the girl.
Apparently everybody could. What was your take on her character?
She was the one we're supposed to be trying to figure out this whole time. And honestly, I thought, especially for probably the age of this kid playing that, she did a really good job. It felt like she was outworldly. I mean, it didn't feel like she was of Earth, and she definitely wasn't normal.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you right now, when she was doing whatever her powers were, she was transformed. Like, she was terrifying.
Yeah,
when she walked up to the group, I'm like, she put her head down. I'm thinking, shit, I don't want that girl coming at me. So she did a great job pulling that off. She felt almost like an alien in this world that we were living in.
Yeah, and in fact, I think the interesting thing, and maybe this is where we'll get into sequel talk in a bit, or a second season talk, they never really described a lot about it. I mean, you have, and the weird thing is, you've got a town, which, now, it was perfect. It's a small Indiana town. Reminds me, like, before I moved to Lafayette when I was 7, I lived in Frankfort, Indiana when I was real little. So, I mean, really small town. The downtown reminded me of that. I mean, it had that feel of the first Halloween movie. The downtown area as fall's coming. Totally hit on all the cylinders. You would not find a massive government agency building in a place like that, but
you just don't know about it.
And you just don't know what's going on in this place. And there's so many questions that aren't like the main creature, this flip side of a world.
And that whole concept was some deep stuff going on.
Yeah, and I don't know if in this season maybe you're not supposed to know. Maybe it's focused on this girl that had powers.
That's what I think.
But she opened a gate and they don't know what it is, so you're not supposed to know yet. So I guess the focus is really on that character. I'm interested in, and maybe they'll hit on this in the future, how did they know she had power? Because you meet the mom who was told that she had miscarried and didn't even think she had a kid.
So they obviously knew something.
It's not like they found a 10-year-old that was doing things and then took her for experiments. So there's a lot that was not answered.
And that's probably the best compliment you can give this show.
Yeah.
Because for something that's only 8 episodes long, I mean, that's not a lot of time to cram a lot of story in, but they did it in a very effective way. And I couldn't help but leave wanting to know more. It'd be one thing if you get through 8 episodes, you feel like they've answered everything. It's like, where are they going to go with this? But there's so much more to explore. It's awesome.
There is. I mean, they completely open it up for a sequel. You wonder what conversation that sheriff has at the end.
I know.
You
and
really
that look
wonder.
He gave, he instantly knew, like, okay, here we go.
And we won't give end of the last episode away, but he does something that definitely makes you go, oh,
Yeah.
there's going to be a comeback to something. And there are a couple scenes like that at the end.
Right.
That make you, oh, this is going to be really interesting if they go season 2. Because I wondered, would this be like an American Horror Story where you need to have a whole new cast, or how do you handle it? Because these kids are so magnetic. You have to keep them.
It's funny because we talked about this off camera beforehand. We kind of went down that path of a different cast, but I don't know. After seeing the end, I'm more convinced that you could continue this story with the same people. And
Exactly.
I think that it wouldn't feel forced at all. I think with
No.
the way they ended, it seems pretty organic.
And it can answer all these questions that you didn't already have. And you know the thing that I thought was great too, I was talking parallels. They did a great job with parallels. Not only do you have the parallels of the stories going along,
Yep.
but the very obvious one is at the very beginning, the Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
And Demogorgon, I think was what it's called.
Yep.
And then flipping the board over, just like your
That is
room
awesome.
flipped over. I'm like, that is just such a cool. So the kids relate it in terms of fantasy. So they're calling this creature that has no name that name and treating it as that.
And just the way they explain that, it's the characters discovering it, but it did a great job of letting the audience understand what the heck we're dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was a very simplified way of looking at it. And the other one I really liked, and I know we're kind of jumping around now.
That's fine.
But I really liked the teacher, his metaphor with the tightrope. And
Yes.
was it the flea?
Yep.
And the way he showed, like, okay, this is our world. And that
Acrobat.
whole explanation was perfect.
It was, and I mean, there's so many. The thing too, this show does not overplay the '80s thing. It feels like it was fit into it, much like I
It
thought.
feels like it was shot in the 80s.
Yeah, which people had issue with Super 8, but that was not one of those issues. I think that worked well versus something that's so saturated in this. I mean, there are things levitating the Millennium Falcon toy. A
lot of great
batteries
Star
not
Wars
included.
references in there.
Yeah, it's like without her, it's like R2D2 going after Darth
Getting
Vader.
Landoed.
Getting Landoed. Then maybe the show will get a Lando from us at the end of the year. Yeah, the other thing, I keep thinking parallels here. Thinking, so we've got the characters, you've got the D&D thing. Near the end, really, when they mention that, it's like going up against Darth Vader as R2D2, and you need. The team, they love Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
They felt like a living Dungeons and Dragons because each character is very different. It's like they were
in
their
a
own
way,
party.
yeah.
You got the kid that's got the little slingshot. He's doing that, and if not, you've got your wizard, which would be the girl. I mean, in a weird way, they all
In a
fit
weird
these.
way, I wouldn't be shocked if it was kind of roughly based on something.
I'm
like that.
sure it was because you start thinking about it. It was never more clear to me until that last. We'll just stick with that. Like the final resolve.
Yep.
You sit there and you're like, they all kind of fit a role here. The hot-headed warrior, kind of the smart aleck. They just, I don't know. It was done so well. I would highly recommend this.
Yeah.
The other thing interesting is, like we talked about the music, the score.
Oh, yeah.
Just thing I wanted to point out, they've put, if you follow Stranger Things on Facebook, they put a link to Spotify where they've made a set list of their music that they
That's
use
cool.
in the show. So you can't actually buy a soundtrack, but you can go listen to it. And this is '83, so most of it is early '80s. They don't go past that, which is good. Except for, I think, Sunglasses Night was '84, but whatever. The Clash was a little earlier, but and then they had, I think, a Jefferson Airplane or something doing White Rabbit. I think that's '70s, but it didn't fit like Guardians fit,
Right.
but it is still kind of fun. And because we had such response of anything we've ever put out there, people gave us their recommendations on what should be on the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 soundtrack. So and we made ours. So we made up a quick one for us. As a Rewind here as well, we'd love to hear in an episode or season 2. And I put stuff, basically, we kind of kept it, if it has show ended December of '83, so we went '84 and went back about as far as '82. But you can look on there. Some of these songs, obviously, Abracadabra with Steve Miller Band, just because the title fits. Hungry Like the Wolf, Duran Duran. I got, Dance in the Dark, Springsteen, Time After Time, Cyndi Lauper, because that's your high school romance song right there. I don't know, some of these Talk in Your Sleep romantics, we'll post it on our page, and you can probably read some of it behind us, but I just thought it'd be fun to put it out there. And what would you like to hear, pre-1984 on a mixtape?
And it'll be cool to kind of see when season 2 does hit, how many of these songs actually end up making it.
I
You never
know. I kind of went with radio friendly, so top 100 Billboard stuff, not really obscure things. Bottom line is, I recommend this show highly, more than almost anything I've recommended on this show.
Agreed.
I mean, I love Daredevil as a Netflix original, but this one just speaks to me in a way that is just, I don't know. It is the nostalgia working on me, but it's perfect, and our opening credits have me sitting in DeLorean and, you're firing up a lightsaber and we're arguing in the Millennium Falcon. I mean, this show is kind of made for us.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you like what we like, check it out. I think it's amazing. It's really well done. So should we hit some recommendations?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go to recommendations.
Well, Greg, no news this week, but
Nope.
it wouldn't be an episode without some recommendations. So what do you got this week?
Well, I'm going with a book. We talked about how Starz is going to be developing American Gods. So I went ahead, picked that up, and I read it by Neil Gaiman. Most people that read this love it. Some people hate it. I'm on the fence that love it. I mean, I'm in the camp that loves it. It was really good. It's out there. But I mean, it is that if anything that has ever been worshipped as a god was real, and their power is based on how many people loved them, and some of them now are just living among us, pretty much shattered, and new groups like media, television, radio, internet, all of a sudden are the new gods that are worshipped, and they're gaining power, and there's a clash between the old and new gods, per se, and one guy gets stuck in the middle of it. It's a cool, if nothing else, it reads like a show. So I think,
cool.
I think it will be a very good show. I don't know how they'll go past really one season, because I'm not sure I can see where your cutoffs would be, but I think if you did a 3-season arc, which would be perfect for it, people might get fed up before they see the payoff. But either way, it's a really interesting book. It's about 600 pages or whatever. I would highly recommend it. What do you have for us?
Cool. So we didn't have news this week, but we know going into this weekend with Comic-Con, there's going to be tons. So what I'm going to recommend is that starting, I guess, this weekend, actually, heck, it's already here. On TBS, Conan O'Brien's going to be broadcasting his show live from Comic-Con in San Diego. So there's going to be tons of guests, tons of great news. And on Sci-Fi this year, Will Arnett's hosting live from the floor of San Diego. So we're going to get a lot of coverage. You may all remember Attack of the Show used to do stuff with G4 for Comic-Con. Does a great job of kind of making you feel like you're there on the floor, getting to hear all the big breaking news. So I highly recommend tuning into those things this weekend, because it's going to be a lot of fun and should be a lot of really great news.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So did you have something else? Maybe an album? Come on.
Okay, fine. I'll give you an album.
I knew you had something back
All
there.
right. Well, I've just gotten a handful of albums recently. Someone actually handed me some. Here, enjoy these. And the one that I was really digging was a guy by the name of James Bay. Has an album called Chaos in the Calm. All I knew his song was that Hold Back the River song that you hear on the radio, and he's got a couple others. But the whole album is really solid. I was surprised. It's kind of in that Americana folk thing that I've been getting into recently. But it was a really great album. I've got some others I like too, but I'll kind of hold those off for future episodes. So check that out.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think, is that it? That's all we've got?
I think that's pretty good for our little comeback, episode 1 of season 2. So until next time, be kind.
And please rewind.